That should be right.
Master me.
Okay, very good. We're continuing with the Ithaca section of Ulysses. And we're going to do a couple rounds of reading where everybody gets a chance to read as much as they would like. And then after we've done that, we will go back and begin our discussion. Okay, so, and I have myself as the first reader. So I will begin. Excuse me. This is Stephen and Bloom in the kitchen on Echo Street. Molly is upstairs, which I think is important to always kind of keep that in mind, that while all this stuff is going down in the kitchen, Molly is upstairs. I frankly never think of Molly being completely gone from Bloom's mind. And so she is actually a character in the scene that's going on, although she says nothing. Okay. Did they find their educational careers similar? Substituting Stephen for Bloomstown would have passed successfully through a dame's school and the high school. Substituting Bloom for Stephen Bleffen would have passed successfully through the preparatory, junior, middle, and senior grades of the intermediate and through the matriculation, first arts, second arts, and arts degree courses of the Royal University. Why did Bloom refrain from stating that he had frequented the University of Life? Because of his fluctuating incertitude as to whether this observation had or had not been already made by him to Stephen or by Stephen to him. What two temperaments did they individually represent? The scientific, the artistic. What proofs did Bloom adduce to prove that his tendency was towards applied rather than towards pure science? Certain possible inventions of which he had cogitated when reclining in a state of supine repletion to aid digestion. Stimulated by his appreciation of the importance of inventions, now common but once revolutionary. For example, the aeronautic parachute, the reflecting telescope, the spiral corkscrew, the safety pin, the mineral water siphon, the canal lock with winch and sluice, the suction pump. Next reader, please. Oh.
Were these inventions principally intended for an improved scheme of kindergarten? Yes, rendering obsolete pop guns, elastic air bladders, games of hazard, catapults. They comprised astronomical kaleidoscopes exhibiting the 12 constellations of the zodiac from Aries to Pisces, miniature mechanical warriors, arithmetical gelatine lozenges, geometrical to correspond with zoological biscuits, globe map playing balls, historically costumed dolls. What also stimulated him in his cogitations? The financial success achieved by Ephraim Marx and Charles A. James, the former by his bizarre at 42 Georgia Street South, the latter at his 6.5-penny shop and the World's Fancy Fair and Waxwork exhibition at 30 Henry Street. Admission 2 pence, children 1 pence, and the infinite possibilities hitherto unexploited of the modern art of advertisement, if condensed in trilateral monodial symbols, vertically of maximum visibility defined, horizontally of maximum legibility deciphered, and of magnetizing efficiency to arrest involuntary attention, to interest, to convince, to decide, such as K11, Kino's 11 shillings, trousers, House of Keys, Alexander J. Keys. Sorry, I can't see who's next.
It is I.
Oh, okay.
Such as not. Look at this long candle. Calculate when it burns out, and you receive gratis 1 pair of our special non-compo boots, guaranteed 1 candle power. Address Barclay and Cook, 18 Talbot Street. Basilicil insect powder, very best deep blacking. You want it. Combined pocket 2-blade penknife with corkscrew, nail file, and pipe cleaner. Such as never. What is home without Plumtree's potted meat? Incomplete. What is an abode with it? An abode of bliss. Manufactured by George Plumtree, 12 Merchants Quay, Dublin, put up in 4-ounce pots and inserted by Councillor Joseph P. Nanetti, MP, Rotunda Ward, 19 Hardwick Street, under the obituary notices and anniversaries of deceases. The name on the label is Plumtree. A plum tree in a meat pot, registered trademark. Beware of imitations. Piedmont, Trumplee, Mountpat, Plumtree. What example did he adduce? To induce Stephen to deduce that originality, though producing its own reward, does not invariably conduce to success. His own ideated and rejected project of an illuminated show cart drawn by a beast of burden in which 2 smartly dressed girls were to be seated, engaged in writing. What suggested scene was then constructed by Stephen? Solitary hotel in Mountain Pass. Autumn. Twilight. Fire lit. In dark corner, young man seated. Young woman enters. Restless. Solitary. She sits. She goes to window. She stands. She sits. Twilight. She thinks. On solitary hotel paper she writes. She thinks. She writes. She sighs. Wheels and hoofs. She hurries out. He comes from his dark corner. He seizes solitary paper. He holds it towards fire. Twilight. He reads. Solitary. Next.
Katrina, we can't hear you.
Thank you. What? In sloping upright and backhands, Queen's Hotel, Queen's Hotel, Queen's Hotel, Queen's Ho. What suggested scene was then reconstructed by Bloom? The Queen's Hotel, Ennis, County Clare, where Rudolph Virag, died on the evening of 27 June 1886 at some hour unstated in consequence of an overdose of monkshood, aconite, self-administered in the form of a neuralgic liniment composed of 2 parts of aconite liniment to 1 of chloroform liniment, purchased by him at 10:20 a.m. on the morning of 27 June 1886 at the Medical Hall of Francis Dennehy, 17 Church Street, Ennis, after having, though not in consequence of having, purchased at 3:15 p.m. on the afternoon of 27 June 1886 a new boater straw hat, extra smart after having, though not in consequence of having, purchased at the hour and in the place aforesaid, the toxin aforesaid at the general drapery store of James Cullen, 4 Main Street, Ennis. Did he attribute this homonymity to information or coincidence or intuition? Coincidence. Did he depict the scene verbally for his guest to see? He preferred himself to see another's face and listen to another's words, by which potential narration was realized and kinetic temperament relieved. Did he see only the second coincidence in the second scene narrated to him, described by the narrator as a Pisgah site of Palestine, or the parable of the plum? Next, please.
It, with the preceding scene and with others unnarrated but existent by implication, to which add essays on various subjects or moral apothegms, for example, My Favorite Hero, or Procrastination is the Thief of Time, composed during school years, seemed to him to contain in itself, and in conjunction with the personal equation, certain possibilities of financial, social, personal, and sexual success, whether specially collected and selected as model pedagogic themes of cent per cent merit for the use of preparatory and junior grade students, or contributed in printed form, following the precedent of Philip Beaufoy or Dr. Dick or Heblin's Studies in Blue, to a publication of certified circulation and solvency, or employed verbally as intellectual stimulation for sympathetic auditors, tacitly appreciative of successful narrative, and confidently augurative of successful achievement during the increasingly longer nights gradually following the summer solstice, on the day but 3 following, Videlicet Tuesday, 21st of June, St. Aloysius Gonzaga, sunrise 3:33 a.m., sunset 8:29 p.m. Duncan.
Ooh.
Right, Joe,
Joe?
Joe, are you going to read?
No. Which domestic problem, as much as, if not more than, any other frequently engaged his mind? What to do with our wives? What had been his hypothetical singular solutions? Parlour games, dominoes, Halma, tiddlywinks, spillikins, cup and ball, nap, spoil 5, bezique, 25, beggar my neighbour, draughts, chess or backgammon, embroidery, darning or knitting for the Police-Aided Clothing Society, musical duets, mandolin and guitar, piano and flute, guitar and piano, legal scrivenery or envelope addressing, bi-weekly visits to variety entertainments, commercial activity as pleasantly commanding and pleasingly obeyed mistress proprietress in a cool dairy shop or warm cigar divan, the clandestine satisfaction of erotic irritation in masculine brothels, state inspected and medically controlled, social visits at regular, infrequent, prevented intervals, and with regular frequency, preventive superintendence to and from female acquaintances of recognized respectability in the vicinity. Courses of evening instruction specially designed to render liberal instruction agreeable. What instances of deficient mental development in his wife inclined him in favor of the last mentioned 9th solution? In disoccupied moments, she had more than once covered a sheet of paper with signs and hieroglyphics, which she stated were Greek and Irish and Hebrew characters. She had interrogated constantly at varying intervals as to the correct method of writing the capital initial of the name of a city in Canada, Quebec. She understood little of political complications, internal, or balance of power, external. In calculating the addenda of bills, she frequently had recourse to digital aid. After completion of laconic epistolary compositions, she abandoned the implement of calligraphy in the encaustic pigment exposed to the corrosive action of copperas, green vitriol, and nutgall. Unusual polysyllables of foreign origin she interpreted phonetically, or by false analogy, or by both. Metempsychosis, metempsychosis, alias, a mendacious person mentioned in sacred scripture. Duncan.
What compensated in the false balance of her intelligence for these and such deficiencies of judgment regarding persons, places, and things? The false apparent parallelism of all perpendicular arms of all balances proved true by construction. The counterbalance of her proficiency of judgment regarding one person proved true by experiment. How had he attempted to remedy this state of comparative ignorance? Variously. By leaving in a conspicuous place a certain book open at a certain page. By assuming in her, when alluding explanatorially, latent knowledge. By open ridicule in her presence of some absent other's ignorant lapse. With what success had he attempted direct instruction? She followed not all, a part of the whole, gave attention with interest, comprehended with surprise, with care repeated, with greater difficulty remembered, forgot with ease, with misgiving remembered, repeated with error. What system had proved more effective? Indirect suggestion implicating self-interest. Example, she disliked umbrella with rain. He liked woman with umbrella. She disliked new hat with rain. He liked woman with new hat. He bought new hat with rain. She carried umbrella with new hat. Next, Sylvia.
Accepting the analogy implied in his guess parable, which examples of post-extilic eminence did he adduce? Three seekers of pure truth. Moses of Egypt, Moses Maimonides, author of More Nebuchim, Guide of the Perplexed, and Moses Mendelssohn, of such eminence that from Moses of Egypt to Moses Mendelssohn there arose none like Moses Maimonides. What statement was made under correction by Bloom concerning a fourth seeker of pure truth? By name, Aristotle, mentioned with permission by Stephen. That the seeker mentioned, had been a pupil of rabbinical of a rabbinical philosopher, name uncertain. Were there other anapocryphal illustrious sons of the law and children of a selected or rejected race mentioned? Felix Bartholdy Mendelssohn, composer; Baruch Spinoza, philosopher; Mendoza, pugilist; Ferdinand Lassalle, reformer, duelist. Lois.
What fragments of verse from the ancient Hebrew and ancient Irish languages were cited with modulations of voice and translation of text by guest to host and by host to guest? By Stephen. Shul, shul, shularoon, shul, go, shoker, agusu, gokun. Walk, walk, walk your way, walk in safety, walk with care. By Bloom. Kefalok, Harriman, Rakoch, Bad, Sanatek. Thy temple amid thy hair is as a slice of pomegranate. How was a glyphic comparison of the phonic symbols of both languages made in substantiation of the oral comparison? By juxtaposition. On the penultimate blank page of a book of inferior literary style entitled Sweets of Sin, produced by Bloom and so manipulated that its front cover came in contact with the surface of the table. With a pencil supplied by Stephen wrote the Irish characters for G, E, D, M, simple and modified, and Bloom, in turn, wrote the Hebrew characters Gimel, Aleph, Deleth, and, in the absence of Mem, a substituted Gof, explaining their arithmetical values as ordinal, and cardinal numbers with a Likit 3, 1, 4, and 100. Was the knowledge possessed by both of each of these languages, the extinct and the revived, theoretical or practical? Theoretical, being confined to certain grammatical rules of accidence and syntax, and practically excluding vocabulary. Next, please.
What points of contact existed between these languages and between the people who spoke them? The presence of guttural sounds, diacritic aspirations, epenthetic and servile letters in both languages, their antiquity, both having been taught on the same plane, on the plain of Shinar, for 242 years after the deluge in the seminary instituted by Phineas Farsay, descendant of Noah, progenitor of Israel, and ascendant of Heber and Heraman, progenitors of Ireland. Their archaeological, genealogical, hagiographical, exegetical, homiletic, toponomastic, historical, and religious literatures comprising the works of rabbis and kulis, Torah, Talmud, Mishnah, and Gemara, Masor, Petuk, Book of the Dun Cow, Book of Ballimore, Garland of Howth, Book of Kells, their dispersal, persecution, survival, and revival, the isolation of their synagogical and ecclesiastical rites in Ghetto, St. Mary's Abbey, and Mass House, Adam and Eve's Tavern, the prescription of their national costumes in penal laws and Jewish dress acts, the restoration of Cana David of Zion, and the possibility of Irish political autonomy or devolution. What anthem did Bloom chant partially in anticipation of the multiple ethnically irreducible consummation? Kulod Baleja Pinama Nefesh Yehudi Homi Ha. Why was the chant arrested at the conclusion of this first distich? In consequence of defective mnemonic technique. Well, how did the chanter compensate for this deficiency? By a paraphrastic version of the general text. Next, please.
We're over halfway through our time. I think in the interest of moving us to a discussion, I'll
Okay.
pass the reading.
Okay. With that being said, I think you must have something on your mind, David Little.
No, not really, but I just, yeah, it's. I think it's time.
Okay. Fine with me. Fine with me. So who would like to lead in the discussion? Lead off with the first comment or question.
Joe, did Joyce? I guess this is on the educational careers. Did Joyce, in fact, enter university and go for a time before moving to Paris?
Oh yes, yes, he did. He went to the what do you call it? What was? I can't even remember the name of the blooming thing. The Royal University, now the University College Dublin, and in the building that is now the Museum of Literature Ireland. And he took his degrees in English, French, and Italian. Open to correction on that. That's from memory. And he went there in 1898 and left with a pass degree in 1902, I believe. I think that now that's all working from memory. But the very interesting, which is not working from memory, is how he performed in his English literature exam. And he achieved a 42% mark,
Mm.
and 40% being a pass.
Huh.
I see.
And University College Dublin regularly breathes a sigh of relief that they didn't fail him. And you know, like if you got 42%, someone's taking a fresh look at your 35 to see can they lift it.
Yeah. Was this a Catholic? Was this the Catholic university or?
It's the Royal University, Catholic University. Yes, yeah.
And it's where I've worked, and it's where I've been at exam boards when we were looking at percentages and marks, and well, yeah.
Well, you were on a well-worn trail where the greater good of UCD had been before you.
And I was a nurse for Terrace for most of my work.
Yeah. Oh, Mercer Terrace is beautiful. You know, I never attended university there, but I used to go to my friend, the Greek, the Cypriot ambassador, used to do Greek classes there, and I used to go to them, and I loved it. I loved it in there because it's atmospheric. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. 42%, guys. You know. And then you know that there's a silence if you mention that. You know.
That's really interesting.
I would be curious to know. I'd be curious to see the paper and find out why his mark was so low. In other words, was he offering unorthodox interpretations of great works of literature? Was that the problem?
He had long since abandoned the syllabus. You know,
Okay. Now,
there was in fact no syllabus. You just attended lectures, and this is true of every branch in engineering as well. I think in architecture, yeah, and you found out what was expected in the exam by being at the lectures.
So, Dave, I do not remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think were you with us when we were reading Stephen Hero?
I was.
Oh, I knew you were, Joe. I'm asking Dave if he was with
no,
us.
I wasn't. No.
Okay, well, sometime, and who knows, maybe we'll circle around to it again. But we did read Stephen Hero, and I think that a reasonably close reading of Stephen Hero, you would not be surprised
Okay.
that his marks were a bit on the low side.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and he delivered a paper. What was the paper called? The Day of Rabblement. And the university, refused to publish it, to print it. And himself and his friend, whose name escapes me, they got it printed privately. But
Mhm.
the Day of Rabblement is their description.
Huh.
That's the title for the emergence of the new Irish literature, the Day of Rabblement. But I think he was just so far ahead of
Right.
his
Right.
of his tutors that like the guy who did the English used to raise a topic and then ask Mr. Joyce what he had to say about it before delivering his lecture.
Uh,
So yeah, Stephen Hero is great. I'm reading Stephen Hero again with another group. Yeah, and I suggested it to them, and like they're guys who've been around the houses a lot. They've been known them for years, and none of them had ever read Stephen Hero.
Uh,
It's surprising. So,
mhm.
but there you go. So anyway, a long answer to a short question, Dave.
Well, and a fulsome answer too. Thanks. The if everyone's good on that, could we look at the inventions? And I'm trying to make sense of what it is and why it's here. It's 2 paragraphs.
Yeah,
Um, so one seemed to lead into principally intended for improved scheme of kindergarten. I may have asked that last week, and
yeah.
I've forgotten the answer. If I did, and I'm sorry.
well, yeah,
So, like, what's a canal walk with a winch and sluice and the suction pump got to do with an improved scheme of kindergarten? As I said, I may have asked it. I've just forgotten the answer that was given.
Right, right.
Sorry.
Well, this is a list, if you will, and I think that it's a very efficient way to show us the range of Leopold Bloom's speculations.
Right.
That he kind of drifts through the world cogitating. I mean, we've already established
Hmm.
he's not a real social person. He's not in the pub drinking and gabbing with the guys,
yeah,
or even in
That
his
didn't go
work.
well.
He is floating on his own, trying to cage advertising revenue. And kind of drops in the office to give report and get assignments and collect money. But he's not, like if you remember in Areolas, everybody else is there in the office,
Yeah.
gabbing away, making speeches, holding forth. Leopold Bloom is not doing any of that stuff. He kind of apologetically appears
yeah,
and does a few practical things, and then he disappears.
yeah,
So
Yeah. Very much the outsider.
Leopold's got lots of time to think.
yeah.
Hmm.
Good point. Yeah, but Dave, you see, the canal lock with winch and sluice is not connected with kindergartens. That's the first of the questions, and it's to do with, things that were once thought of as inventions that are now they were once revolutionary and are now everyday things. That's the canal lock and winch. Then it goes on
Mm.
to were these inventions principally intended for an improved scheme of kindergarten, and then you get a whole set of other ones like alphabet biscuits and things like that. I think we mentioned last week might be like giving playing balls to every playing ball to contain a globe of the planet, the countries and the rivers of Africa and this sort of thing.
Okay.
Arithmetical lozenges. These are that subset of his ideas that could be applied to the kindergarten.
Okay, so normally when you would say in the English language, were these inventions, and you've just listed some inventions, you would go back to the list. But Joe, I see what you're saying. You're saying no. What it means were the following inventions principally intended for an improved scheme of kindergarten. Is that it? And then you read the next paragraph?
Yeah, I think so. I think because in that,
Okay,
you
okay,
have,
yeah,
for
yeah,
example,
thanks.
you
And that
have
was
an
maybe told to me
parachute.
last.
Like the parachute, an aeronautical parachute would not have an awful lot of use in a kindergarten.
No, no. Um,
But you see, there,
but the following were yeah, okay. I'm gonna make a note of that. Thanks. If I didn't get that last week, bad on me. Thank
I
you.
must say, I had never got that till you asked the question, and then I began to sort of think about it. So thank you.
Mhm.
Can I ask a question that has been troubling me, Duncan? May I?
Ask away. Ask away, of course.
Um, are Bloom and Stephen effectively sitting in the dark? At no stage did anyone turn on a light.
Doesn't he say something about striking matches?
Candles, the
Yeah,
candle.
yeah, to light the gas, but they've long since,
Oh, I
bulbed.
see. Okay.
Bloom lit a fire. So is this whole conversation being held by firelight?
I think it's in a semi-darkness at any rate.
There's no, yeah, there appears to be no electrical lighting in Bloom's house, which is why,
Is there anywhere in the book where we're introduced to electrical lights? I don't know.
yes, as you can see, I've been deeply troubled by this for weeks because I've been thinking about it. And when Stephen leaves the tower, uh, uh, Buck Mulligan says, "Turn off the current." That would be, they're leaving. I imagine turning off the current when you're leaving your house, but this is what he's telling him. So they have some sort of form of electrical current, but it will explain. I don't want to ruin the story for everyone. It will explain if they're in the dark. It explains when Bloom comes back in how he bumps his head on
Yeah.
furniture, and it also makes this for a cozy little chat.
Mhm.
But maybe that's the way you do sit in Bloom's kitchen at night. There is no, they might have gaslight. He hasn't turned it on. I'm looking for people to say, I know Joe on page 402, he says, turns the light. Oh,
Mhm.
rabbit.
My own personal impression of this whole thing is, yes, they are in the kitchen, that they're speaking in low voices.
Yeah,
Because as I mentioned at the very beginning of this, Stephen may not really be aware, but Bloom is aware that Molly is upstairs.
yeah,
And it's very late. And so, he's automatically keeping things a bit on the dark side and a bit on the quiet side.
yeah.
Not to mention that both of these gentlemen have had a very long day.
Long day, yeah.
And they're kind of having a quiet chat. And today's reading was exceedingly interesting to me because
Oh,
for the first time I realized that Stephen has moved beyond his petulant petulant, arrogant young man
Yeah,
putting up with an older man who's being too chatty. And that Stephen is actually starting to engage. And the proof, at least proof to me, of that is on the next page. After all this stuff, the list of inventions, and we end up with once again plum trees, potted meat, et cetera, et cetera. And when we get to the section that says, which example did he adduce to induce Stephen to deduce that originality? though producing its own reward does not invariably conduce to success. And then he shares his earlier presented thing about how he thinks that Healy's should advertise. His improved idea of advertisement. And then what really thunderstruck me and made me realize, oh, things have changed, is the next one that says, what suggested scene was then constructed by Stephen? This is, to my way of thinking, a wonderfully creative suggestion from Stephen.
Is he speaking? I see. I thought he was only thinking it.
Well,
But you might be right. He might be speaking.
what suggested scene was then constructed by Stephen, I would assume he's speaking it.
Okay, and I thought it was mentally.
Yeah, I thought it was mentally too.
But I
I have the feeling that there's a huge silence, not a hostile silence, a friendly silence, and we are hearing their thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
right.
Because the next thing is Bloom thinking
Yes.
about his father's suicide. So I thought these were all internal moments.
Right, but that's Bloom working off of Stephen's mention of solitary hotel paper.
Mm,
That's how I'm interpreting it.
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
That Stephen has given him a very
Right.
literary
Right.
yeah.
and literary cinematic advertising idea
Yes.
that
Yeah.
he's just sketching in short sentences. But in the middle of that is the mention of a hotel and the word solitary.
Yeah.
Right. And then he says, what suggested scene was then, the word then being key, reconstructed by Bloom. Right. Good
Yeah.
going, Duncan. Joe, I
Yeah.
think I have an answer for you to your earlier question. So Bloom comes in, I'm at about line 100, 110 or something. So he comes into the house, he lights a candle, ushers Stephen in, and then it says he extinguished the candle. Bloom. What did Bloom do? He extinguished the candle by a sharp expiration of breath upon its flame. Then he lights the stove. And that stove must give off enough light because it says, what did Stephen see on raising his gaze to the height of a yard from the fire towards the opposite wall? So if it's darkness, it must be semi-darkness because Stephen describes, it's described what Stephen sees. For instance, ladies' gray hose with little suspenders and so forth. What did Bloom see on the range? He sees stuff on the range. So there's at least enough light that they're not in total darkness, that they are discerning at least some of the objects, maybe in a shadowy form.
Yeah. And that is the stove is the fire, isn't it?
Correct. I think that's it. I think that's why he extinguishes the candle.
So the stove gives light.
Right.
Yeah.
I suppose the early part of the stove where all the flames and the papers are burning would be quite bright.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can sort of see. So that's how they light the kitchen. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
At 589, it says, look at this long candle. Calculate when it burns out, and you receive gratis one pair of our special non-comparable boots. I don't know. Guaranteed one candle power.
589.
That's which edition are you talking about? So
Yeah, of Wordsworth, 589, but five lines in the end.
Gabler, 559.
That's 589 in Wordsworth. You're Wordsworth, Duncan, aren't you?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Such as not. Such as and such as not.
Yeah, okay, but those are ads that they're talking about. I don't think they're things that they see.
Oh, are they? Oh,
I think he's talking about ads and ads that don't work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But at line 150, Sylvia, just to pick up your point, you can see things. Under a row of 5 coiled spring house bells, a curvilinear rope stretched between 2 holdfasts, athwart across a recess beside the chimney pier, from which hung 4 small-sized square handkerchiefs, etc.
Mm.
So those are things there that you actually can see, as opposed to alluding to ads that
Yeah.
Bloom was thinking about.
Okay, so what we have here, this is, okay, I'm just going to spin out what I see as the process. So we have Bloom talking about all these practical applications of science,
Yeah.
which are basically commercial gigas. Then we had the thing that says what also stimulated him, Bloom, in his cogitations. And it goes into the monetary aspect of it. Because we know Bloom is always interested in money.
Yeah.
He's always thinking about money. It's never far from his mind. And so he's saying he's interested in the practical applications of science, basically commercial products, because he's also interested in the money aspect of it. So he's got the money aspect of it, and then he goes and he has a specific thing, which is his projects for the day, including the House of Keys, Alexander J. Keys. So this is Bloom. This is his financial endeavor of the day, is to sell an advertisement to Alexander J. Keys. Okay. And then it wants to give a counterexample. And this I'm getting a little bit lost at this point. I think my argument was doing fairly well, and then I'm not sure where we're going. But these are also more products.
Yeah.
These are all products.
These are
So he's talking to Stephen about I think this is a out in the open conversation. I think that actually Stephen is not the petulant young man that he was earlier in their interaction. And he's kind of interested in Bloom's babblings, if you will. And then he jumps in. So Bloom gives him an example of what Bloom thinks would be an improved advertisement. So Stephen listens to it, and Stephen says, well, okay, but what about this? And this is where Stephen presents a rather quickly but well thought out idea for an advertisement. Very literary,
yeah.
very cinematic. Okay. But he mentions hotel. And for whatever reason, Bloom is suddenly in the hotel where his father commits suicide.
Right.
And then he goes into a long thing about his father, when his father bought the poison and his father bought a new hat and all this kind of stuff. So all of this, it's like there's
Yeah.
connections between each of these, although it's all over the place.
But it's very plausible what you're saying.
Yeah. But
So,
yeah, and one of the questions touches on exactly on what you're saying, but it says, did he depict the scene verbally for his guest to see? And the answer is he preferred himself to see another's face and listen to another's words, by which potential narration was realized and kinetic temperament relieved. It implies he didn't speak this part of it. So he's going in and out of speech, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Yeah, which is what we do. I mean, this is really literally what us human beings do when we're in conversation with someone. We're not always present for the immediate conversation, that there will be little triggers that happen and we kind of sail off for a while, and then something is said or we turn our head and suddenly we're back in direct conversation again.
Yeah.
and like the Woody Allen thing, you can miss whole chunks of what people, and then you have to, yeah, I do that.
Yeah, well, when you say Woody Allen, I mean, I cannot say I have seen a whole lot of Woody Allen movies, but I think one of Woody's main techniques is he has a story going along, and then he kind of stops, turns to the audience, talks with the audience, or talks to himself a little bit, and then he goes back to the major narrative.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I may be wrong. Like I said, I'm not
Yes,
haven't
it's
watched
it's
that
double
many.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
there, that makes it quite accessible, you know, using that.
He's actually giving us hints because further on it says, which domestic problems, blah, 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 frequently engaged his mind,
Mm-hmm.
which seems to refer to exactly what, we had. Did he depict verbally and then engage his mind later on the page? So it's going in and out of the speech, just like you're describing us in conversation, going in and out.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
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 And I don't know about you, but I mean, I still, no matter how many times I read this, I'm always struck by Bloom's father buying a new hat just before he kills him.
Yes, yes, I've read enough detective novels to know he didn't commit suicide. You don't buy a new hat a few hours before you kill yourself.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It was
Actually,
foul play.
I mean, to be probably entirely too blunt, if I were to commit suicide, I probably would buy a new hat. And I would also probably make sure that I had new underwear on.
The underwear I understand.
But
So
yeah,
what happened to what happened to him? If he didn't kill himself,
yeah.
somebody po
I think he did
somebody
kill
poisoned
himself.
him?
I think he did kill himself. I mean, I haven't seen any evidence strong enough to dissuade me from the idea
Yeah.
that
But
he killed
yeah,
himself.
I think
Yeah.
Lois's point is that it's at variance with detective novels that
Yeah.
in your standard detective novels, people aren't buying new hats before they kill themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you think
Right.
about it, Lois, when you think about it, hang on. Why not buy a new hat? Because if the money's in the bank account, you're going to commit suicide. You're not going to get the benefit of the
Where are
money.
you going to wear that hat?
Yeah. I
Oh, yeah.
don't detective novels, but I do know of a suicide. Um, and in Grafton Street years ago, I was quite young. I was about 14 or 15. A girl came to work one day in a department store. Um, Very cheerful to everyone as she came in. Beautiful day today, happy, and went up to the top of the building and threw herself off.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And it was one of my sister's friend worked and was the last person practically she's had a cheerful, chatty few words with. And like apparently before they commit suicide, sometimes people are happy. They've made their mind up.
They have made a decision.
They've escaped from whatever it is,
It's done. Okay, right. Well, I don't have to worry now. I'm going to go up to the top of the building and jump off.
It's a lovely day.
I want to know, was he wearing the hat at the time he died?
This is it. So, are you suggesting, Lois, without putting words in your mouth, that buying a hat before committing suicide showed his agitation of mind? That he wasn't thinking straight? Is that it?
Au contraire.
Okay, go ahead. Have at me.
He he buys this aconite sometime in the morning, right? Or they say they don't know at what hour. He buys the aconite at 10 in the morning. He buys a hat at 3 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to kill himself. He buys the aconite.
He buys the aconite first, so he's made a decision, most
Right.
likely.
And then he says, okay, I'm going to kill myself tonight, but you know what? I think I'll go buy a hat.
Yeah.
And if he was wearing the hat at the time he died, I would say fine. He decided he needed to have a hat on his head before he died. But to own a hat before you die is a little odd.
Might be an ambition.
I'd always wanted to get a new hat.
He
Okay.
may have, well, remember, he got his hat is extra smart,
Extra smart, yeah.
which means it was extra expensive.
And not in consequence of having purchased at the hour of the place the tuxen aforesaid.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It could be, it could be, just to throw this out, it could be because Virag has decided to commit suicide and he knows his money problems are over,
Yeah.
that he can spend extra money on a new hat, the new hat he's always wanted, but has never been able to buy because he's always had these money worries.
Yeah.
But once he's decided he's just going to kill himself, and he has to do something with the time, between when he bought the poison and when he gets back to the hotel room. And why not spend the time going to buy the hat that he always wanted to buy,
Yeah.
but was always too cheap to do it?
I'm right to check. If it's
And this
any,
is the way the human mind can work.
if it's any help, this aspect of the novel is based on the Queen's Hotel in Ennis. There was such an event where a new owner whose name was Isaac, so I'm imagining he might have been Jewish, committed suicide. And this character is drawing on that. The Queen's Hotel, Ennis, County Clare, is still there, and as a result of this novel, they receive visitors,
Ah,
and they show them the spot where the gentleman in question committed suicide. Now, he did it by way of a rope, and it seems to have been a stable at the time, not a bedroom, not a nice clean job, but it is based, the story is based on an actual suicide, which might indicate that it was nothing, there are no suspicious circumstances, no other persons are being sought by the police,
So let me tell you a little story which is only connected in the sense of how weird us humans think.
Yeah.
So, the Catholic Church, if you commit suicide, until recently, you were definitely not going to be buried in the churchyard.
That's right.
Okay?
Unhallowed ground.
Unhallowed ground. So, but some Danish guys figured out the workaround. And the workaround, this is a pretty terrible workaround. The workaround was that they would kill somebody because you could be buried if you murdered somebody. Okay. And so they would kill somebody and then they would be arrested and executed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a long game. It would have been smarter to commit suicide by cop.
Well, this is
right?
Okay.
You don't want to wait till you're hanged. You want to go out with your guns blazing.
Yes, unfortunately,
So that the
I
cops
know.
will kill you.
Yes. I'm familiar with that phenomenon. Unfortunately, a friend's son did exactly that.
Yeah.
My friend was devastated.
That's all right.
He just went to a grocery store parking lot and started acting crazy until a cop showed up. Then he acted crazier and the cop shot him.
Oh.
And that was his whole purpose for the whole thing. But I mean, I'm just trying to point out that the human mind is very unusual. Once it loses its moorings, there's no telling where it'll go.
If you want to commit suicide, you're presumably in a great state of pain. I don't mean physical pain, but you are highly distressed about something that you can't resolve, and you've now resolved it. I know how
Yeah.
to. I'll exit stage left. So you can sort of feel, well, problem solved, good idea. Being enthusiastic for it even. Sort of.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that I have any of those feelings myself, but I can imagine someone having. But you must have terrible difficulties. You owe X million to a bank, and
Right.
you're going to be homeless, and you've been. The guys who got on planes in the 1950s with bombs, and took out insurance policies. They knew their kids were looked after, sort of thing, and they would then,
Right,
I would speak of taking out the policy, thinking that they'd left big money to their nearest and dearest. You can sort of see it.
Yeah, it's not totally irrational. It's just very irrational.
I say it is rational. Yeah, obviously it's not to use that word normal.
Can anybody, this is one thing that kind of continues to baffle me, is the section where it says, this is the Pisgah site of Palestine, or the parable of the plums.
Yes.
Can anybody dissect this for me and tell me what's going on here?
Well, can we walk it back? What was the second scene narrated to him?
Did he see, hold on, okay, did he see only a second coincidence in the second scene narrated to him,
Okay.
described by the narrator as a Pisgah? Okay, so what is the second scene?
So is the second scene a Pisgah site of Palestine or the parable of the plums?
I don't think.
So is that the actual scene? So the first scene is the business in the Stephen's talking about this business in the hotel, and is the second scene actually the story, the parable of the plums? That's the best I could figure, Lois.
Okay, so I'm glad I asked the question because it stimulated me to look a little harder for an answer. And I think the second scene is actually Stephen's advertising suggestion, starting with a solitary hotel in Mountain Pass Autumn.
Isn't that the first scene?
No,
Okay.
the first scene is the girls, smartly dressed girls, be seated, engaged in writing.
But isn't that Bloom's scene?
That is Bloom's scene.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Sloat gives an
But
explanation.
it says the second scene narrated to him, so he wouldn't be narrating his own thought, right? That's where
That's a very difficult grammatical interpretation, actually, because it can go either way, in my opinion. But Joe, you were going to say something?
Well, I was just saying, Sloat has a comment on this. If anyone wants to read it, or I will. I've made a lot of noise, but will I read it? Or anyone
Sure.
got it?
Yeah, please
Go
do.
ahead.
Okay, it's under the second coincidence, right? The
Right.
first coincidence is that Bloom and Stephen both have a story to tell about the Queen's Hotel in Ennis. The second coincidence is that both have an interest in writing and storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way twice Bloom has thought of writing a story for Tidbits in the manner of Philip Beaufoy. That's earlier in the thing. So he just says that, I don't know if that helps.
Okay, well, let's just walk it through. First of all, we had the question. did he see only a second coincidence in the second scene narrated to himself, blah, blah, blah. It, with the preceding scene and with others unnarrated but existent by implication, to which add essays on various subjects or moral apogence. Is that how you say that? For example, my favorite hero or procrastination is the thief of time, composed during school years, seemed to him to contain in itself and in conjunction with the personal equation certain possibilities of financial, social, personal, and sexual success, whether specially collected or selected as model pedagogic themes of percent merit. Now I'm getting lost.
What is it?
Keep going, though. The following the priesthood of Philip Beaufoy.
Okay, for the use of, okay, following the precedent of Philip Beaufoy, or Dr. Dick or Heblen Studies in Blue,
Right.
to a publication of certified circulation
And solvency.
and solvency, or employed verbally as intellectual stimulation for sympathetic orators,
Auditors.
tacitly,
Yeah. Listeners. Auditors are hearers.
Yeah.
for
Tacit-
sympathetic listeners, tacitly appreciative of successful narrative and confidently augurative of successful achievement during the increasingly longer nights gradually following the summer solstice on the day but three following, and then it just sails off.
Yeah. Whose thoughts are these? Are they Bloom's? They sound like Stephen's.
Well, no, I think it has to be. I think it has to be Bloom
Has to be Bloom, yeah.
because up in the question we have, did he see only a second coincidence in the second scene narrated to him, described by the narrator? So here's a question for you. Was Bloom there when Stephen told the parable of the plums?
I don't think so. Hadn't he gone on his way to try to solicit
I
advertising?
thought he had run off to go look in the library or to
Right.
find Alexander Keys. I thought I don't remember him being there, and I don't remember Stephen.
He followed them, didn't he? Calling the editor. He'd gone off to see over to the auction where Keys was, and then he came running in the street. He wants whatever he wants. Can't remember. Is it a puff or a para? And he's told tell him he can kiss my arse.
Right.
Tell him he can kiss my Royal Irish arse. So he in an appearance. How it relates to the Pishag site of Palestine, he must have heard Stephen saying that.
That's what I'm wondering now from your description, whether he was close enough to him to actually hear it, although he was not formally part of the group.
Yeah, and he maybe just caught that phrase on the wind, and being of Jewish extraction, the idea of Moses and the Holy Land would register with him.
Mm-hmm.
But he could have been there for that. It could be, gosh, I'm not going to do it, but sometime I must look at the exact that kiss my ass thing where it's said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He does say that, doesn't he? I didn't imagine it. It does
say it, but I thought that
in Gabler. So it's chapter 7, 980, KMA.
KMA.
Tell him he can kiss my arse, Mile Crawford said, throwing out his arm for emphasis. That's about right. Okay.
Right.
He can kiss my Royal Irish arse, Mile Crawford cried loudly over this. While Mr. Bloom stood weighing the point and about to smile, he strode on jerkily. Okay. I'm just trying to see when Bloom leaves.
Bloom gets left standing. They
He
keep
does. That's right. But then we come to the story Tool, Dublin women on top of Nelson's pillar.
Oh, he didn't stay standing. He followed them. He was following Crawford. He was going to ask him again.
Strode on jerkily, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Bloom stood weighing the point and about to smile. He strode on jerkily. I'm assuming being Bloom. Or was it Crawford who strode on jerkily?
Yeah, Crawford strides on jerkily, I always thought.
Okay.
We don't hear any more about Bloom.
No. Okay.
I always pictured him standing there disappointed. But that's only in my head. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'd put this down to Bloom.
Oh, you're talking about the he up in this, did he see only?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that
And somehow, maybe because he was close enough to hear Stephen holding forth. Because I imagine as they walk through the streets, when you got a gang of people walking through the street and someone's telling the story, they're not going to tell it in a quiet voice.
yeah.
So it's very possible if Bloom was close enough that Bloom would hear the story, even though he's not part of the group.
That's really interesting. I had thought that he'd long left, but I guess I was wrong.
Well, he does. He does go left, but he comes running back, having done the deal quickly. But he has to get this. What is he? He has to get
The puff.
What he wants is the puff, and or is it he wants three? Yeah, he wants the puff to give three entries.
Right. And it says, while Bloom stood weighing the point and about to smile, he strode on jerkily. So he must be Miles Crawford. So Bloom is standing there.
Yeah.
And so he's there, I guess.
Yeah, he's there. And yeah.
Right. Well, I think next time, then the topic. I think we have to start next time. We'll do the reading. Maybe next time we should start just read this. Did he see only a second coincidence?
Okay.
Because we need to figure out what in the hell is happening. We start off in that, and the answer to the question is somewhat coherent until finally we get to this really weird thing that says during the increasingly longer nights gradually following the summer solstice and the day but three following Visalet, and then all this stuff. And then this big jump, but it looks like a big jump. Which domestic problem, as much as, if not more than any other, frequently engaged his mind?
Okay. I've got it marked then to start next week at did he see only a second coincidence? Is that correct? Is that where you want to mark?
Yeah, unless there's strong objection, I think.
No, I think that's good. Lois, my fellow marker, are we good on that one then? Okay. Perfect. Now, just to change the subject slightly, since I assume that we are done this, where are we starting tomorrow with Lear? Because I missed last week.
Where are we starting with
I
Lee?
would have to look it up. I believe it is after they're in the hut with.
So is that act 3, scene 2, enter Lear and Fool? That scene?
We're at scene 4. Aren't we at scene 4?
Okay, so
Yeah.
scene 4. Okay, just a sec.
Scene
Just a
4.
sec.
Where are we with?
I have enter Gloucester with a torch. And that's where we stopped. But
Yeah,
Just a sec. Enter Gloucester with a torch.
yes.
in that act, because that's quite relatively long act.
Okay.
Yeah, we had there was a short act and then there was going to be a longer act, so we stopped, as I remember it.
Okay, and so the first line, the first spoken line would be, sorry, you guys, would be what?
This is foul fiend of Liberty Gibbet, right?
Okay, just a sec.
Oh.
Fool. Okay.
It's Edgar.
All right, well, I hope you got it figured out because I'll be asking tomorrow where we
Yeah,
stand.
because I'm sorry, I'm totally lost. Okay, I'll find out.
problem.
So just give me the first line. Sorry, everybody.
Okay, Edgar says, "This is the foul fiend Liberty Gibbet."
This is okay. I'll find it, and it's Edgar who says that.
Yes.
This is the foul fiend Liberty Gibbet. Okay, super. Thanks. I'll find it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, geez, folks, thanks again.
Tomorrow. Thank
Don't-
you.
Duncan, if you get a chance, will you send me that photograph or diagram of the?
Yes,
Please.
yes, I'll do that pretty right away.
You can send your fee to my lawyers.
I hope you're feeling better, Joe.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know where to go. I'll send my lawyers around to bring you over.
Have a good weekend.
I see you.
Yes.
I see you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See you,
Sure.
Sylvie.